A Birthday by Christina Rossetti. My heart is like a singing bird whose nest is in a watered shoot. My heart is like an apple tree whose boughs are bent with thick-set fruit. My heart is like a rainbow shell that paddles in a halcyon sea. My heart is gladder than all these, because my love is come to me. Raise me a dais of silk and down, hang it with vair and purple dyes, carve it in doves and pomegranates and peacocks with 100 eyes, work it in gold and silver grapes, in leaves and silver fleur-de-lis. Because the birthday of my life is come, my love is come to me. Hello, everyone. Welcome to The Social Contract, the award-winning podcast created by George S. Corey and the Artist Cleo. It's a birthday Bonanza special, and I cannot wait for you to find out who we're celebrating.
I'm George.
I'm Cleo.
I'm Steven.
I'm Maya.
And I'm Tavia. I bet you don't know what today is. Yes, it's May 18th, but do you know who and what we're celebrating today? Well, it's the Artist Cleo's birthday, and we wanted to throw a little podcast party to honor our beloved artist-in-residence and fan favorite, the one and only Cleo. As she embarks on her next journey around the sun, there is so much to celebrate. First, let's catch up on all that has been happening these past months with our pint-sized super sleuths, second-grade boy and girl wonders and BFFs for life, Georgie and Gigi. The New Orleans trilogy has been keeping them, and us, very busy. In Book 1, The Mardi Gras Mystery, Georgie and Gigi are magically transported to New Orleans for a spooktacular adventure, when the ghosts of Lady G and her 46 ladies-in-waiting haunt the city's famous cathedral, threatening to drive out all the tourists and cancel Mardi Gras. In Book 2, The Voodoo Queen of New Orleans, a trio of Hollywood voodoo ghosts almost spoiled Georgie and Gigi's class trip to New Orleans. But G&G team up with the spirit of Marie Laveau, known as the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans, to save the day. And in Book 3, The Missing Maid of Orleans, Cleo summons the two Gs, along with Sister Elaine and Grandmother Marie, to New Orleans to help solve the case of the missing Joan of Arc statue. Published on the new Gistikids imprint, the stories are incredibly fun. The books, thanks to Cleo's amazing art, are beautiful. And the audiobooks, thanks to our gifted narrator, Broadway's own Stephen DeRosa, who we'll hear from in a bit, are wildly entertaining. Author George S. Corey and the artist Cleo have been taking the Big Easy by storm, making appearances in support of the New Orleans trilogy. I can't wait to hear all about it from George and Cleo. But first, a very big announcement. Are you ready, kiddos? Georgie and Gigi are coming back with an all-new jazz trilogy. The first book, Kiddos Save Jazz, will be released this summer, with the second and third installments dropping later in the year. It is a musically infused thrill ride, filled with the sights and sounds of New Orleans and some of the most important moments and musicians in jazz history. Once again, G&G will be joined by Sister Elaine, Grandmother Marie, Cake Pop Baker Extraordinaire Yael, and, of course, Cleo. We'll be introduced to a new character as well. Let's just say she's teen-tastic. As a singer and musician myself, I must say, I am very excited about these new musical adventures. And I'm thrilled that Cleo will be joining us today. I hear she has a special surprise to share with us. But first, an audio sizzle reel of sorts. The Artist Cleo is an acclaimed visual artist who creates in multiple mediums. Her socially conscious art has been seen in the visual novels Presidential Conversations for Kids, The Mardi Gras Mystery, The Voodoo Queen of New Orleans, and The Missing Maid of Orleans. Cleo's work has been showcased in numerous digital and audio singles, as well as in the music video Keeping the Faith, featuring Robin Miles and Steven DeRosa. Her exhibitions in New Orleans have been thrilling art-goers, and her virtual galleries at theartistcleo.com continue to wow and delight. She can be heard on the award-winning podcast The Social Contract, which she co-created with George S. Corey. And if you're lucky, guest DJing on WWOZ in New Orleans. A committed believer in activism through art, Cleo has supported numerous political and cultural organizations, founding the Cleo Capital Project in D.C. and the Artist Cleo's New Orleans Musicians Project at Jazz Fest. In recognition of her support for public safety, she was commissioned by the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department to create banners with original art honoring the 144 officers of the MPD that were injured on January 6th. The banners still hang at each of the 7 MPD stations and several youth substations throughout D.C. Recently, Cleo was also commissioned to paint 2 wall-sized welcome murals at the International Rescue Committee's D.C. area office. With the participation of 130 caseworkers, Cleo chose bright floral themes for the murals Welcoming Garden 1 and 2, depicting the national flowers of the refugees' various home countries, and including the word welcome in their native languages. Through her creative work and civic awareness, she remains committed to inspiring young minds and nurturing tomorrow's leaders. Her children's characters, Georgie and Gigi, have introduced early readers and listeners to such important figures as Shirley Chisholm, Harriet Tubman, and Fannie Lou Hamer. Cleo hones her talent by fully engaging in the world around her, as well as participating in the political process. A former pupil of President Jimmy Carter, she continues to draw inspiration from President Carter's legacy. And on top of all that, she's just plain cool. And now, without further ado, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome this birthday Bonanza's honoree, the woman at the heart of this celebration and in our hearts, the Artist Cleo. Happy birthday.
Thank you very much.
I really love that we are doing this for your birthday this year, not only as a way of thanking you for all you've done for us in bringing out these amazing characters and this wildly fun world to life, but also because I feel like at this point we're so immersed in the character of Cleo that we don't want to forget the very real person who inspired her. And I know that George has a beautiful muse in you. The character Cleo's determination, her can-do spirit that's so inspiring and so positive, always, even in the face of some very dire circumstances. Of course, the beautiful art. She's such a role model for young girls and boys, and even for big kids like me. But I'm not sure if people are fully aware that in addition to inspiring your namesake character in The Adventures of Georgie and Gigi, you've actually inspired and continue to inspire all of the story and the podcast ideas. To give everyone an idea, I want to share something that George wrote in the preface to The Voodoo Queen of New Orleans, voiced, of course, by our very own Steven DeRosa. Let's listen.
The creative spark for the second story in The Adventures of Georgie and Gigi came from the artist Cleo. She gave me her idea for this book while we were walking around in St. Louis Cemetery No. 1 in New Orleans. As we walked through the cemetery, I joked about how spooky the Spanish moss looked. like spider webs hanging off the tree branches. There was green mold and moss growing on everything. It felt strange to be surrounded by rows and rows of above-ground graves. In New Orleans, bodies aren't buried in the ground because the city is below sea level. As Sister Elaine said in the Mardi Gras mystery, we wouldn't want caskets floating around, would we? So they build little houses, called mausoleums, which are usually just big enough to hold a single coffin. When you see all these tombs the size of garden sheds, it takes some getting used to. Since I'm the goofy one, I was making ghost sounds as we walked around. Ooh. But Cleo told me to grow up, quiet down, and pay attention. Then she led me to the most famous grave at St. Louis. I could tell right away that it was special. People had placed flowers, jarred candles, and even plastic soda bottles around it. And they had drawn X's all over the little house's whitewashed plaster. A plaque explained that it was the gravesite of the famous voodoo queen, Marie Laveau. Cleo said that when she had visited the site by herself to sketch it, she noticed a simple, hand-stitched voodoo doll. Then and there, the idea came to her. For our next New Orleans-themed book, she would create a gallery of voodoo dolls. And I would imagine our pint-sized ghost detectives, Georgie and Gigi, teaming up with Marie Laveau. The artist Cleo had taken me to visit the tomb in the hope that I would be inspired to make Marie Laveau my next subject. And I was. Then, Cleo pulled out a black Sharpie and said that we were going to draw X's and pray for Marie to bless our work on this book. And we did, and she did.
Cleo, I want to know how it feels to know that your creative spark has set off, like fireworks are set off, this entire Georgie and Gigi universe.
I love being the idea person behind this because I love going to George and saying, how about this? I was like, I want to make the wigs from New Orleans a part of a story, so I want to have ghosts with wigs. And so George immediately ripped up what he had done on the book that we were working on and started all over again. So I love turning our ideas as we collaborate into these engaging stories.
What a great collaboration. Here's my idea, you figure out the mechanics. That's wonderful. Now, as I mentioned at the top, you've been busy promoting all 3 books in the New Orleans trilogy. You did mention the amazing wigs, and there was an amazing wig party event at the BK House, and you exhibited many of the pieces from the trilogy at ESOM Art Gallery. By the way, I want to remind our audience that they can see some very fun pictures from these events at theartistcleo.com. But Cleo, tell us about this event.
What we wanted to do with these events was bring the books to life. And I was like, how do you do that? I actually brought all the wigs. I brought 10 wigs, which are reflected in the book. And instead of just having them sit on a table somewhere, I offered that everybody who came could try one on and they could decide which one was their personality. And then everybody, they continued to wear them. And so when George got up to tell the story, he had everybody engaged. The whole thing just came together with this incredible vibe, and the story really came together.
What a fun event. I'm sorry I missed that. It sounds just like a blast. You know, what I said earlier in your sizzle about activism through art, I think is so beautiful, and it's so reflective of who you are. And that is personally meaningful to me as well, because I'm obviously a big believer in giving back and affecting change however, whenever possible, wherever possible. And if you can achieve that through the arts, that's just the ultimate. There are 2 things you've been involved in since we last spoke that I wanted to bring to light for our listeners. One is your work painting murals for rescue.org. Congratulations, that is phenomenal. And the other is the New Orleans Musicians Project, which you launched at Jazz Fest, which you've just gotten back from. So tell us about those projects.
So the firm I work for is very involved on a global basis with the IRC. And so we do a lot of different projects with them. And so we wanted to do one in the DC area. And they came back and said, our offices are pretty plain. We'd really like to have some art. And so the folks that I work with, They came to me because they knew that I did some paintings and drawings and that type of thing. And they said, would you consider doing a mural? And so I've never done a mural. I've never done anything nearly that big.
Yeah.
But I jumped at it. And they said, we would really love flowers and a garden. We'd like the flowers from the different jurisdictions where refugees come from. So basically, it built out into being what I call the welcome garden. It just came out really well. We actually unveiled it in January. And the caseworkers who bring these refugees, they've had, honestly, a really kind of difficult year. And so they were just all so excited to have this. And we're supportive of the musicians in New Orleans. And there's a magazine down there, which is called the Jazz Fest Bible, which gives all people information and background. And we've just been very supportive of that and participate with it and in it.
I want to get to the surprise that you have planned for us, but first, a little birthday-themed fun. So, Cleo, I don't know if you're into astrology at all, but your birthday being today makes you a Taurus. And I want to read something from Allure magazine, which says Taurus is an earth sign represented by the bull. Like their celestial animal counterpart, Taurians enjoy relaxing in serene, bucolic environments surrounded by soft sounds, soothing aromas, and succulent flavors. Taurus is ruled by Venus, the enchanting planet that governs love and beauty. It's true that in a perfect world, Taurians would spend all day bathing in a tub overflowing with essential oils. At the same time, these earth signs aren't afraid to roll up their sleeves and work hard to earn big rewards. They're ambitious, focused, and resilient. As a sign, Taurus is fixed, an astrological quality that reflects Taurus's steadfast, loyal nature. Taurians are dependable, trustworthy, and devoted. That seems like a pretty apt description, especially the parts about beauty, resilience, loyalty. What do you think?
That's pretty good. Those are pretty nice compliments, right? And I would say that the first part of it, as far as soft sounds and bathing in oils, is probably not really the thing that I would think of. So I think the latter part of that, being ambitious and focused and resilient, is the things I would identify with.
Yeah. Now, even though it's your birthday, you have a gift for us. Just as you gifted us with a listen of the Mardi Gras mystery at Christmas time, you are now personally gifting us with another listen.
I wanted everyone to listen to the second title, the New Orleans Trilogy, featuring Marie Laveau.
Lucky us. Well, there you have it, kiddos. The Voodoo Queen of New Orleans, presented by the birthday queen herself, and performed by Stephen DeRosa. But first, Stephen has a little birthday greeting for you, Cleo.
It's somebody's birthday. Sing, 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 sing. It's Cleo's birthday. La-di-da, ho, ho, ho. Now it's time to celebrate. Sing, 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 sing. It's Cleo's birthday. La-di-da, ho, ho, ho. Now it's time to celebrate. She's an artist extraordinaire, and everybody loves her so. We're so thankful she was born. That is why we're singing this song. Sing, 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 sing. It's Cleo's birthday. La-di-da, ho, ho, ho. Now it's time to celebrate.
I love that. And now, on to our adventure.
The entire second grade class at Our Lady Queen of Peace, OLQP, plus 5 grown-up chaperones, was crammed into 3 candy apple red, extra-long, 10-seat golf carts. They were riding around St. Louis Cathedral Cemetery No. 1, one of the oldest cemeteries in the country and a famous site in New Orleans. The artist Cleo, who had an art studio in the city's French Quarter, had surprised the lucky kiddos with a trip to New Orleans. Cleo was lifelong BFFs with Sister Elaine, one of the second grade teachers, and had gotten to know the children by teaching guest art classes at OLQP whenever she was in town. The kiddos learned all about word art, heart art, and something called politic art, which was a fancy term for political art, from Cleo. The golf carts bounced along on their fat boy tires, weaving down alleys and around the above-ground crypts. Spanish moss dripped from trees like spider webs, casting long shadows. The golf carts' names, Big Red 1, Big Red 2, and Big Red 3 were stenciled in black curlicue lettering on the hoods. Cleo was the driver of Big Red 1. Sister Elaine drove Big Red 2, and the other second-grade teacher, Sister Mary Catherine, Sister MC for short, was behind the wheel of Big Red 3. Among the gaggle of children were homeroom co-captains and BFFs Georgie and Gigi. G&G, as they were called, had been to New Orleans once before when they were enlisted to help Sister Elaine and Cleo save Mardi Gras after a code purple was called. Even though it was spooky to be in a cemetery, the kiddos were having a great time, talking and laughing with excitement and joy. They felt safe because Cleo, Sister Elaine, and Sister MC were with them, along with Georgie's grandmother, Marie, and their favorite cake pop baker, Yael. All the second graders called Georgie's grandmother Grandma Marie, which she loved. Sometimes she referred to herself as Grand-Mère Marie, which means grandmother in French, since she had been raised in Egypt speaking French. Grandma Marie volunteered in the school library, helped coach all the Pee-wee intramural sports teams, and was known for her special dessert called baklava, a Middle Eastern pastry made with layered dough, nuts, and honey, which everyone loved. She even prepared nut-free baklava for those kiddos who had nut allergies. The baker Yael made the best cake pops in town and was known for delivering her famous panda-shaped pops dressed in a pink panda costume. Some said her cake pops were known to have magical powers. Among the famous grave sites they visited that day were those of the famous chess player Paul Morphy and Daniel Clark, one half of the famous exploring duo Lewis and Clark. Cleo then led them to a special gravesite. It was in the middle of 100 other similar little houses, but this one was different. For one thing, pink paint was visible through cracks in the white plaster. It had once been pink. "My favorite color!" exclaimed Gigi. "Well, one of my favorite colors, along with red, purple, magenta, and mint green." Bouquets of flowers and jarred candles had been laid at the tomb's entrance, and X's had been drawn and etched all over it. "Whose tomb is this?" asked Gigi. "And why was it pink?" Cleo smiled. "This is the tomb of Marie Laveau, known as the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans," she explained. "And the X's are for luck. People draw them to ask her spirit for favors and blessings. As for the pink, well, that was just someone who wanted to make her gravesite pretty." Cleo, who was experienced in ghost sightings, suddenly whipped her head around. In the distance, at the opposite end of the cemetery, lurked 3 voodoo ghosts. "Uh-oh, we've got company," she said. "Elaine, MC, quick, get the kiddos back into the carts. We have to get out of here now." The 3 carts tore through the cemetery, barely staying ahead of the 3 ghosts now chasing them. Cleo shifted Big Red 1 into high gear and started going even faster. "Hold on to your habits, sisters! It's time to put the pedal to the metal!" she shouted to Sister Elaine in Big Red 2 and Sister Mary Catherine in Big Red 3. "I didn't know golf carts could go so fast!" cried Sister Elaine. "I can't keep my habit on!" Meanwhile, Sister MC expertly spun the wheel as Big Red 3 skidded easily around a curve. Yael and Grandma Marie were seated in Big Red 3's rear-facing trunk seats, hanging onto the golf cart's frame for dear life. Sister MC called back to them in her Irish brogue. "Don't you worry, ladies. I was driving golf carts at the Dromoland Castle Golf Course in Ireland when I was just a wee thing." Then, as they bumped along at maximum speed, Sister MC raised her fist, yelling out in Irish Gaelic, "Fóca Ballet!" at the top of her lungs. That means clear the way! It's a battle cry of the Royal Irish Regiment, in which I served as a lass before answering a higher calling. Before donning this nun's habit, I proudly wore a green cobbeen, which is an Irish beret that we soldiers wore. It was as an enlisted woman in the army that I learned how to be brave behind the wheel. For me, it was the Porsche driving school in Birmingham, Alabama, cried Cleo. Sister Elaine shouted out, for me, it was driving a yellow school bus filled with kiddos on a sugar high. Cleo threw her head back in laughter. You win, Elaine! Each of the voodoo ghosts had its own unique look. The first was a 10-foot-tall voodoo doll, covered in rough burlap patches and rope-sized stitches, with pins the size of golf clubs sticking out on all sides. The ground shook as it plodded forward. Boom, boom, boom. Sister Elaine spun the wheel and swerved around the second ghost, a green zombie creature. It was fast and slinky like a hyena, slithering around, then jumping from spot to spot, all the while laughing creepily. The third was a skeleton, wearing a feathered top hat and red boa, its skull face colorfully painted. It may have looked like a skeleton, but it was very much alive. Its loosely connected bones clickety-clacked while it danced, accompanied by the echo of an unseen piano. It suddenly did a backflip right onto the roof of Big Red 1, and it sounded like plates crashing. The children screamed. Oh, my stars, cried Cleo. Grandma Marie nudged Yael, saying, Yael, j'ai une idée. I have an idea. Then she reached into her bottomless handbag and pulled out a cookie tin filled with her special homemade baklava. It is my belief that everyone, even ghosts, likes dessert, Grandma Marie told her. Yep, Yael nodded. Everybody has a sweet tooth. My bakery business depends on it. Grandma Marie began throwing the diamond-shaped pieces of baklava at the ghosts like a ninja. Good arm, Marie, exclaimed Yael. Thank you, Yael. Not to be a braggart, but I was the star center of the girls' basketball team at Notre Dame de Sion, my high school back in Alexandria, Egypt. The creatures caught the pieces of baklava hurled at them and devoured the sweet treats, crumbs flying all over the place. Yael, who always had an emergency box of cake pops on hand, started tossing pops at them. The ghosts lunged and leaped, shoving past one another to intercept the goodies. Grandma Marie's baklava and Yael's cake pops provided the ghostly trio with a temporary distraction from their pursuit of the golf carts. The kiddos clapped and cheered. Hip, hip, hooray! But soon the ghosts resumed their scary chase. Just then, Cleo had an idea. She remembered a place where they could all hide from the ghosts. Once again, the artist Cleo saved the day. Follow me, she cried, as they exited the graveyard in a cloud of dirt and gravel, the voodoo ghosts stomping and slinking after them. One by one, Big Reds 1, 2, and 3 screeched to a halt at the foot of an abandoned Gothic mansion on the outskirts of town. In here, kiddos, Cleo said. She tried kicking the back door open, but it wouldn't give. Grandma Marie stepped forward. Try this, she said, pulling a crowbar out of her bottomless handbag. What else have you got in there, Marie? A flat-screen TV? Teased Sister Elaine. Cleo was able to pry the door open just enough so that they could all quickly slip inside. Cleo, MC, Marie, Yael, I'm going to get help, and I'm taking Georgie and Gigi with me, said Sister Elaine. Please, watch my kiddos. Don't worry, we'll be safe here, whispered Sister MC. Now go, Godspeed. Yael slipped them her last 3 cake pops. Take these, just in case. They were made with my 2 secret ingredients, love and magic, she said with a wink. They all hugged. Then Sister Elaine, Georgie, and Gigi ran off into the darkness. As they got farther away, the 3 ghosts slammed into the mansion, and one by one, bounced back like tennis balls off a garage door. It was now dark outside. "Where are we going, sister?" Georgie asked. "You'll see," she replied as they rushed down Rue Sainte-Anne, which means St. Anne Street, until they came to a gray house with white trim and midnight blue shutters. A plaque read, 102022 Rue Sainte-Anne. Marie Laveau and her children lived at this site between 1839 and 1895, before the circa 1905 construction of the existing cottage. "This is where the sacred house of Marie Laveau once stood," Sister Elaine told them. "Many people believe that Marie's spirit has remained at this address. Some even claim to have spotted her spirit walking down St. Anne Street." Sister Elaine lightly knocked on the door, then tapped on a window. "Hello? Anybody home?" No answer. "I have an idea, sister," said Gigi. "Let's all bite into our cake pops. Ms. Yael said they were magic. Maybe something will happen." "Good idea," exclaimed Georgie, tearing the cellophane off his cake pop. "I am kind of hungry." They each bit into a cake pop, and suddenly the gray house transformed before their eyes into the original cottage where Marie Laveau once lived. "Wow," said G&G in unison. "I guess Yael's cake pops really are magic," remarked Sister Elaine, her mouth agape. The door creaked open and they all stepped inside. The cozy, cluttered space was lit by jarred candles. The walls were covered in masks and drawings, and there were bunches of dried flowers everywhere. Wicker baskets held trinkets, coins, balls of yarn, and little dolls that looked like pincushions. Sister Elaine latched the door behind them. She sighed, visibly relaxed, then turned to G&G, as if they were back in a classroom. "Now, you might be wondering what we're doing here and why I brought you two with me and not the other kiddos." "Yeah, why us?" asked Gigi. "Well, the last time we were in New Orleans for the Code Purple, you two kiddos were instrumental in helping to draw out the ghosts, proving yourselves to be first-rate ghost detectives." "Those ghosts were friendly," sighed Gigi. "Père Antoine, Père Dagobert, and Buccaneer Hicks. And even Lady G and her 46 spirit ladies-in-waiting. They were a little hoity-toity, but they were nice, especially when Ms. Cleo took them to Fifi Mahoney's for Mardi Gras wigs." "Well, these ghosts are definitely not nice, which is why we're here," said Sister Elaine. "If anyone can help us fend them off for good, it would be the legendary voodoo queen of New Orleans herself, Marie Laveau. I just hope you two kiddos will be able to summon her spirit, because we need all the help we can get." Georgie and Gigi looked at each other. Then Gigi said, "Sister, we may have something else that can help. You remember those EMF sensors that Ms. Cleo gave us during the Code Purple?" "Yes, of course. How could I forget? They detected electromagnetic fields and would beep, beep, beep like crazy whenever ghosts were around." Georgie excitedly told her, "Me and Gigi have something even better!" Sister Elaine's eyes practically popped out of her head. "You do?" Georgie and Gigi knew this was the right time. They reached into their OLQP backpacks and pulled out two futuristic-looking robotic gloves. The gloves were rubbery, like a scuba suit, and covered in wires and tiny lights. Each one had a little battery pack built into it. "What on earth?" said Sister Elaine. "EMF is so last year," giggled Gigi. "Yeah, it's all about EMP now," Georgie declared. "Check it out, sister. Voltage-boosted electromagnetic pulse gloves, the latest in ghost-detecting gear." They slid the EMP gloves onto their right hands. Gigi's glove was a bright Barbie pink, while Georgie's was a just as bright Kelly green. I love how bright and colorful they are, said Sister Elaine admiringly. However, shouldn't ghost gear be gray or black? But these are our favorite colors, answered Gigi. Yeah, added Georgie. Who says ghost gear can't look cool? Sister Elaine threw her hands up in the air. Well, how do they work? And how on earth did you come across them? We made them, exclaimed Georgie. You made them? Asked Sister Elaine, astonished. Well, Gigi's mother, she's a scientist, helped, replied Georgie. But it was our idea. We got it from a potato. A potato? Wondered Sister Elaine. Yeah, sister, Gigi explained. Remember how you showed us in science lab how to turn a potato into a battery that can power a light bulb using a nail and a copper penny? Well, it got us thinking. How can we use the same idea to make ghost gear? Just in case there's ever another Code Purple. So we told my mom about it. Well, not really the ghost part. And she was excited to help us. Georgie added, EMF sensors can see ghosts, but EMP gloves can make little energy balls that zap them. It won't hurt the ghosts at all, but they definitely won't like it. And we'd only zap mean ghosts, not nice ones. We were going to try out these EMP gloves while we were being chased in the golf carts, but our backpacks were under the seat and we couldn't get to them. My word, marveled Sister Elaine. I don't know what to say. How did you do it? We just Googled electromagnetic sensors and clicked on the link. Then there was another link to electromagnetic pulse devices, and we thought that sounded way more cool. And then we found this guy. He was a candidate for something, I don't remember what it was, but it was a very, very long time ago, like in the 1990s. Sister Elaine cupped her face in her hand. Oh, I remember, shouted Gigi. He was a PhD candidate in applying math. No, wait. In applied mathematics, which made him sound really smart. And guess where he went to school, sister? Where? Asked Sister Elaine. Right here in New Orleans, at some place called Tulane University. We figured if he lived in New Orleans, then he must know something about ghosts. This PhD guy wrote up all the instructions, and we just followed it like one of Grandma Marie's recipes. There were pictures, which made it easier. Georgie held out his gloved hand. See, sister, the wires are connected to a voltage adapter and a battery. When we increase the voltage, a little ball of electromagnetic energy builds up in the palm of your hand, but it doesn't have any place to go. It's like filling a glass of water until it starts to overflow. My cup runneth over, all right, muttered Sister Elaine to herself. Psalm 23. And it forms a little ball of energy the size of a gumball. Gigi chimed in. And you can throw that cute little pulsing ball of electromagnetic energy just like you'd throw a regular ball, only it looks like a mini bolt of lightning when it's in the air. It's fun. And even if it doesn't work against the voodoo ghosts, me and Georgie still want to do EMP gloves as a science fair project. As Sister Elaine examined the gloves, she said, I am extremely impressed. And to think, the idea for this came from a potato. The best thing to come from potatoes since French fries were invented, Georgie said. Sister, I'm afraid, admitted Gigi. If Miss Laveau was the queen of voodoo, wouldn't that make her a bad person? Isn't voodoo bad? No, replied Sister Elaine. Voodoo itself is not bad. It's mysterious and oftentimes misunderstood. Let me teach you something, kiddos. When something is different or we don't understand it fully, it can be easy for us to think it's bad. Voodoo has been an important part of New Orleans history for centuries. Many of the people who practice voodoo, including none other than Marie Laveau, have used it to help people. Way back before there was television or cars or even light bulbs, voodoo priests and priestesses would make herbal remedies and healing potions to bring comfort and healing to sick people. But movies and television shows, and even cartoons and comic books, have convinced the world that voodoo is this bad thing that doesn't respect religion or culture. In fact, voodoo is rooted in West African spiritualism and Caribbean folklore, and here in New Orleans was influenced by Native American culture and the Catholic religion. You know, Marie Laveau herself was a practicing Catholic. Thank you for explaining that, sister, Gigi told her. I don't feel scared anymore. Sister, how do you know so much? Asked Georgie. I read a lot, she replied, tapping her head. The more you read, the more you know. And ever since Cleo has taken an art studio here in the French Quarter, she's shown me and taught me all about New Orleans. This city is so rich in history, and I'm always happy at how you two love history as much as I do. Now, back to business. The problem with these ghosts that are chasing us is that they're Hollywood voodoo ghosts, which is why they're so mean. They have nothing to do with actual voodoo and everything to do with cheap thrills and selling movie tickets. How will drawing out Ms. Marie's spirit help with the Hollywood voodoo ghosts? Asked Georgie. Because truth always wins out over lies. Marie Laveau was a real person, and the true queen of voodoo. And those Hollywood voodoo ghosts are as fake as the CGI special effects that projects them onto the movie screen. What's CGI? Asked Gigi. It stands for computer-generated imagery, Sister Elaine answered. In other words, fake. They came across a faded portrait of a little girl hanging on the wall. Beneath it was a dusty label that had been affixed to the frame. It read, Marie, 1809. Oh, I recognize this painting, said Sister Elaine excitedly as she rummaged through the deep pockets of her nun uniform. She pulled out a miniature guidebook of famous New Orleans people and places. Yes. This is a portrait of Marie Laveau as an 8-year-old girl. She continued reading from the guidebook. Born in 1801, Marie Laveau is revered because of her contributions to the city of New Orleans and its varied communities, including the Creole community, as well as her devotion to the Catholic Church. She was a priestess, herbalist, advisor, and community leader, skilled in the practice of voodoo and mysticism. Crowned the Queen of Voodoo, her physical being died in 1881. Her spiritual being lives on. As Georgie and Gigi gazed at the painting of young Marie, they noticed her mouth moving. Then she smiled at them. Suddenly, G and G were yanked into the portrait, as if being pulled through an open window. It was a bright and sunny day in 1809. G and G found themselves in a garden overflowing with flowers and herbal plants. It smelled amazing, like perfume, roast chicken, and gingerbread cookies. Young Marie wore a full-length ale yellow dress with small lavender flowers on it. The dress had a ruffled collar and puffy shoulders. A white apron was tied around her waist, and her hair was wrapped in a colorful paisley-patterned turban. She was turning a big wooden ladle in a large cauldron on an open flame. The bubbling concoction smelled like a delicious soup, or gumbo. Luckily, Gigi's favorite author was Jane Austen, whose books were published in the early 1800s. She had insisted that Georgie act out scenes with her from the early readers, or kiddos edition, of Pride and Prejudice. She would play Elizabeth Bennet, always reading her lines in a British accent, and Georgie played Mr. Darcy. It annoyed Gigi to no end that Georgie would make funny faces while they were reading their lines, causing Gigi to laugh and break character, a term she learned at theater camp. Reading and acting out Austen's books meant that the two G's were familiar with the manners of the day and knew how to properly introduce themselves to young Marie. "Mademoiselle, excuse us for creating a disturbance," Gigi said. She and Georgie were dressed in their school uniforms, and young Marie did not know what to make of their strange costumes. But she very much liked how Gigi wore her hair in pom-poms. "Please allow me to introduce myself," Gigi continued with formality. "I'm Mademoiselle Gigi, and this is my BFF, Monsieur Georgie. We go to OLQP." Georgie did a little bow. "Good day to you both," Marie answered cheerfully, if a bit confused. "What is BFF, and what is OLQP?" "Oh," exclaimed Gigi, "BFF means best friend forever, and OLQP stands for Our Lady Queen of Peace. That's our elementary school in Washington, D.C. I am Mademoiselle Marie." "Yeah, we know," blurted out Georgie. "You know? How do you know?" asked Marie with a smile. "Might it have something to do with the magic that brought you here today?" Then she threw her head back, laughing. "It was I who summoned you." "You did?" asked Georgie. "Yes. I saw you looking at me through the painting in this curious window between our worlds." "How did you see us?" Georgie quizzed her. "With my third eye, of course. I knew you wanted to draw me into your future world, so I took the initiative and drew you into mine." "Oh, Mademoiselle Marie," said Gigi as one lady to another, "we need your help." "Mademoiselle Gigi and Monsieur Georgie, tell me, what troubles you, and what can I, but a girl, do to help?" "The Hollywood voodoo ghosts are after us!" exclaimed Georgie. "What he means," interjected Gigi, "is that we are being bothered by 3 jesters. They're making voodoo seem like something that is nasty and scary. And we knew you wouldn't like that." Georgie added, "Sister Elaine brought us to your old cottage to see if we could summon you to help us. Meanwhile, Sister Mary Catherine and the baker Yael are in hiding, along with 22 kids from our class, and my grandmère Marie, who shares your name." Young Marie listened carefully as she continued to stir the pot. She seemed to become transfixed by the contents of the steaming hot cauldron as she mused aloud. "With your arrival, I can see my entire life, well beyond my 8 years on this earth, emerging before my eyes right here in this cookery. I will be known for centuries, all throughout the world, for my voodoo spiritualism, of which I am now a mere apprentice. I will draw large crowds and become known for my wise and compassionate ways." "Ooh!" she squealed with delight. "I shall be a hairdresser! And I will listen to every woman whose hair touches my hands, their troubles, their dreams, the anguish in their hearts, even the sad loss of spiritual connection. The seemingly magical powers I develop shall humbly stem from the simple acts of listening, fostering understanding, and practicing kindness." She suddenly stopped stirring, then looked up at G&G wide-eyed. "And I shall hold a royal title? The Voodoo Queen of New Orleans? Can it be true?" Georgie and Gigi nodded enthusiastically. "Yes, yes, yes," said Marie, untying her apron, suddenly determined. "Let us return to your future world. Together we will face these jesters, as you call them, and I shall claim my throne. We will use whatever magic we can muster, whatever spells must be cast to banish them." Young Marie asked Georgie and Gigi to lay their hands on the ladle, and they stirred the pot together, faster and faster, until they all dissolved into the vapors and reappeared in the cottage on Rue Sainte-Anne. Hello, children, Sister Elaine said with a smile. Who do we have here? Asked Sister Elaine. Young Marie smiled and curtsied. I am Marie Catherine Laveau. I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, to a free woman of color, Marguerite d'Arcantel. My father was Charles Laveau. I was named for his mother, Marie. My ancestry is varied. Caribbean, African, French, Native American, and probably more. My family's Lebanese, Egyptian, Greek, and Italian, Georgie shared. My family comes from the West Indies, announced Gigi. My mom did a genealogy thing and found out we're French, Spanish, Scottish, West African, and East Asian. I guess that's why they call this country a melting pot, exclaimed Georgie. We are in New Orleans, Gigi reminded him. It's not a melting pot, it's a gumbo. Georgie stuck out his tongue at her. If you stick your tongue out at me again, I will put on my EMP glove and zap it, whispered Gigi jokingly. What are you, a first grader? Now, you two, said Sister Elaine sternly, her hand firmly on her hip. Then she turned to young Marie. It's very nice to meet you, Marie. I'm Sister Elaine. Now, make yourself comfortable. I want you to know that you are most welcome here. Well, of course you are. It's your house. Sister Elaine had her arms around Georgie and Gigi. Boy, you two kiddos sure are terrific ghost detectives. I'd say each of you deserves about 10 gold stars. Thank goodness you're okay. When you got sucked into that portrait, I was a little worried. Marie was surprised at the informality of Sister Elaine's speech and mannerisms, as well as her attire. She had never seen a nun wearing anything resembling the lace-up, chunky-soled Doc Martens Sister Elaine wore beneath her frock. Then again, she'd never seen anyone wearing Doc Martens. She sensed the great affection this nun had for her pupils. She also saw how much her new friends Georgie and Gigi loved and respected their teacher. It made young Marie feel homesick for a moment. Sister Elaine continued in her classroom voice, saying, Now, Georgie and Gigi, you're just in time to lend a hand, or rather, a gloved hand. Care to show our new friend your EMP gloves? The two G's excitedly reached into their backpacks and slid on their EMP gloves to show Marie. What magic is this? Young Marie marveled. It's not magic, it's science, Georgie exclaimed. Gigi allowed Marie to try on her pink glove and explained how it worked. Marie was amazed. She had witnessed conjurings and spells, even curses, but never anything like this. Perform your magic, Marie told them, and I will follow with mine. G&G pleaded with Sister Elaine. Can we, sister? Please, please, please. Yes, you may, she told them. 1 energy ball each, and please, for the love of God, be careful. On the count of 3, Georgie and Gigi turned on their EMP gloves, and in no time, little crinkly kinetic balls of energy formed in their palms. Then they wound up their arms and pitched their balls. Whoosh! The little spheres of electromagnetic energy went right through the door. The gloves worked! Marie watched as Sister Elaine, Georgie, and Gigi jumped up and down and slapped one another's hands. She'd never seen a high five and thought to herself how very strange these new friends were, however skillful and brave they may be. Georgie and Gigi then invited Marie to show them what she could do. First, may I know in what forms have these jesters manifested themselves? Marie asked. Gigi and Georgie looked at each other and shrugged. What Marie wants to know, kiddos, is what they look like, Sister Elaine interjected. I'll tell you, Marie. One looked like a great big voodoo doll, but it was huge. Must have been at least the size of a bear. Gigi named that one the Voodoo Teddy Bear. Then there was one that was green, like a zombie, but fast and sneaky, slinking around and laughing like a hyena. Georgie named it the Meanie Greenie. And then there was a skeleton, all decked in a feathered top hat with a red boa around its neck. Whenever this one was around, you could hear a janky piano playing, and the skeleton would dance, its loose bones clinking and clanking to the music. We call that one the jazz skeleton. After hearing these descriptions, Marie lowered herself to her knees. She leaned forward and began to draw, tracing shapes on the dirt floor. They could tell she was concentrating, like she was doing homework. There was no wild chanting or dancing, no rolling her eyes. Finally, Gigi whispered to her, "What are you doing?" Marie closed her eyes and calmly replied, "You could call it a kind of weather magic. But it's really just a conversation through time and space with Mother Nature." "You can do that?" asked Georgie. "Of course," Marie replied. "Watch me." Within moments, a whirlwind started to take shape, spinning up from Marie's etchings in the dirt. Then a storm formed inside the whirlwind, as rain, wind, and lightning were contained inside the swirling vortex. Georgie, Gigi, and Sister Elaine jumped back as a thunderclap roared. "I thought our little electromagnetic pulses were cool, but she's got us beat," said Georgie. Gigi nodded. "Yeah." Marie's twister had come just in time. Outside the cottage, they could hear the voodoo teddy bear clomping, the meanie greenie shrieking, and the jazz skeleton's bones rattling. The ghosts had arrived. The whirlwind blew through the roof and unleashed the forces of nature against the three ghosts. The wild winds, heavy rainfall, and crashing thunder slowed them down, but didn't stop them. Young Marie stood at the door and looked straight into the frisbee-sized eyes that had been sewn into the enormous voodoo teddy bear. As he plodded toward her, she raised her arms up to the sky and quietly mouthed a few words. Suddenly, the whirlwind engulfed the voodoo teddy bear. It twisted and turned, trying to resist, but it was no match for Marie's cyclone. It carried the voodoo teddy bear high into the clouds, far, far away. Meanwhile, Georgie came face to face with the meanie greenie. To give him courage, Georgie made believe he was Spider-Man's sidekick. He slid on his Kelly Green high-voltage EMP glove and slung an electromagnetic ball straight at the green ghost. It exploded in the air like a little fireball without even making contact. Georgie then brought his gloved hand to his side to give his opponent a false sense of security. He silently counted to 10, raised his EMP glove, and hurled a whole bunch of energy balls, one after another. Zap, 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 zap. The meanie greenie was so scared that it made a high-pitched screech and scampered away into the night. While Gigi was known for her drawing, acting, and singing skills, she was also one tough cookie, as Grandma Marie had told her one time. Gigi liked being a tough cookie, but couldn't decide if she'd rather be a snickerdoodle or a macaron. She'd figure it out later. This was no time for sugar and spice and everything nice. Gigi didn't flinch as the jazz skeleton jangled toward her. Sliding her hand into her pink EMP glove, Gigi whipped it over her head, twirling it like a baton, and spun the electromagnetic pulses into a kinetic rope of energy. Then she flung it at the skeleton like a fishing line, lassoed it up, and dragged it back to her like a pile of bones. The piano that had been accompanying the jazz skeleton suddenly stopped playing. Gigi said that she would let him go on one condition: that he would be nice, leave them all alone, and stop haunting people. The skeleton raised its bony hand and nodded. Then she set him free. Georgie, Gigi, and Marie sat down on the ground. They were breathless. "What a day," Sister Elaine huffed. Still easier than driving a school bus with 24 first and second graders from D.C. to Philly to see the Liberty Bell in the middle of summer with no air conditioning. Marie said, "If that is anything like a 3-hour journey over bumpy trails in a rickety open carriage, I feel the same way, sister." "My kind of girl," remarked Sister Elaine, who had somehow managed to come up with 3 juice boxes. As she handed out the juice boxes and straws, she said, "Here we are, kiddos, back in the bayou and once again having to deal with ghosts. I must say, you did a fantastic job, all 3 of you." Young Marie had never drunk juice out of a juice box, but she liked it. As they slurped, Georgie looked over at Marie and said, "That was one cool twister. Even better than the one in The Wizard of Oz." "Who is this Wizard of Oz?" Marie asked. Georgie and Gigi couldn't wait to introduce their new friend Marie to their classmates, and to Sister Mary Catherine, Grandma Marie Yael, and especially the artist Cleo. "Wait till you see Miss Cleo's art," Gigi said. "The colors will knock your socks off." "I thank you," young Marie told her. "And though I have never worn stockings of any kind, I understand your meaning and foresee my enjoyment of these works. My moccasins may be inspired to fly off my feet, as you say." Georgie laughed, then said, "You're going to love my grand-mère's baklava. Her name's Marie, too. And wait until you taste Ms. Yael's cake pops. They're the best." "What are cake pops?" asked Marie. Gigi took her by the arm and said, "Oh, Marie, you have so much to learn." After rescuing the others, who were hiding out in the abandoned Gothic mansion, they all hopped into Big Red's 1, 2, and 3 and went to Cleo's art studio. They had a pizza party, and the kiddos marveled at all the works of art in the studio. There were hearts and flowers and even skateboards, all drawn in vibrant colors. Cleo explained to them that the chunky pastel chalks she used came from Paris. Marie's favorite artwork was the silhouette of a woman that had been etched in pink and red against a white background. Cleo rolled it up, tied it with a purple ribbon, and told her she could have it as a token of appreciation for helping to get rid of the ghosts. She thanked Cleo and gave her a hug. The children begged young Marie to return to D.C. with them, telling her they'd love to have her as their classmate, teammate, and friend. "You will always have a home with us," Sister Elaine added, "and I would be happy to have you as one of my students." "Me too," cried Sister MC. Marie was so grateful, but told them she wanted to return to her time so that she could live out her life and fulfill her destiny to become the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans. She pulled Georgie and Gigi aside and said a special goodbye to them. "When people are in our hearts," she told them, placing her palm on her chest, "they are never far away. You two are already each other's BFF, so I shall be your sister from another time and place. I have a very strong feeling that we will meet again, and my premonitions are never wrong." They all hugged, smiling so wide they thought their faces would crack open. Then, young Marie dropped to her knees and started drawing on the floor. After a few minutes, she began to fade, becoming transparent, then invisible, until she was gone. Not too long after, back in Washington, D.C., Grandma Marie treated Georgie and Gigi to French fries, malted milkshakes, and a matinee. To their surprise and delight, they saw a movie poster featuring none other than the Voodoo Teddy Bear, Meanie Greenie, and the Jazz Skeleton. The Hollywood Voodoo Ghosts had gone Hollywood and were now starring in their own movie. But it wasn't a scary movie. They were now calling themselves the Jolly Jesters and starring in, you won't believe it, a comedy.
They say the sequel is never as good as the first installment, but that's definitely not the case here. This was another G&G gem. I hope you all enjoyed it as much as I did. Now, I want to bring back our birthday girl, Cleo. And this time, she is joined by the social contract co-creator, George S. Corey. I'm so excited to talk to them. But first, there's someone who'd like to share her own special message.
Hi, Cleo. It's Maya here, wishing you a happy and blessed birthday. I hope it will be the best year yet.
Hear, hear, Maya. May it be for us all. George and Cleo, welcome back. First off, I want to thank you both for sharing the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans with us. It's one of my favorites, and that's saying something. One of the things that I think worked so well and made it feel so fresh was how voodoo was depicted not as some scary thing, but as something magical and kind of mystical. And I know that is resonating with a lot of people right now. One person who that's resonating with is our associate producer, Tatiana, who is of Haitian descent. And I love how the Hollywood voodoo ghosts demonstrate to us how something so special, or so sacred even, can sometimes be seriously misrepresented. I'm sure that it was a choice to present voodoo in that way. So tell us about that thinking. How did you get there?
We really wanted to show how spiritual voodoo was, where it came from. It came from a healing point of view. It came from both men and women, but primarily women who were spiritualists, shaman, but also herbalists, healers, midwives. In the case of Marie Laveau, she was also quite a socialite and gossip.
Huh.
She had a very successful hairdresser shop for upper class Creole and white women. And in addition to doing their hair, she would also gossip with them, give them advice, and then she would take care of their spiritual needs and whatever health and herbal needs that they had. And she would also take that to the poorer communities and with money that she got and spread it through the city. I didn't know a lot about this. I just knew about voodoo what everybody else did, the Hollywood version, the creepy version. And once we learned so much about her, that it was so beautiful and so spiritual, and she was such a strong woman. The storyline became really obvious.
She was also incredibly beautiful, which is also not a way that she gets depicted very often. It's people not understanding something, I think, at the end of the day. And so what we tried to do was to give a little more understanding to who she really was.
While we're on the Mardi Gras trilogy, George, I want to read something that you've said about our Woman of the Hour. One of the most gratifying things about creating the New Orleans trilogy has been working with the artist Cleo. Her vision has allowed the stories to evolve into a truly unique hybrid storybook/art book reading experience for kids and kiddos. I love how Cleo's art is elevated while still being accessible, instilling our audience with the wonder and imagination that are at the heart of Georgie and Gigi's adventures. That is so beautifully stated, and it gets to the core of why this creative partnership has flourished in the way that it has. Is there anything that you'd like to say to Cleo or to us about Cleo on her special day?
Everything, all these books, every story, every idea, and even the inspiration to do the first one just came out of Cleo.
So promotion can sometimes be a sludge, but you two seem to be having the best time meeting and talking to people about Georgie and Gigi and introducing them to your creative work. Give us a taste of how it went at Jazz Fest and also at WWOZ's Piano Night. Let us live a little vicariously through you two.
Piano Night is one of the two big fundraising events for this nonprofit jazz radio station. We sponsored two of the pianists. They have a pianist playing at the House of Blues on two stages all night long. The House of Blues in New Orleans is very old, a lot of old wood. It has arcane symbols everywhere. The main hall is very intimate. So wherever you are, whether you're on the floor or whether you're on the seats around it, it's very old world. It's beautiful. The sound is amazing. So you get a lot of feel. And people who stand on the floor all dance. So that's really cool.
There's just such a plethora of talent in this city that it's just remarkable. And they all come back and they all want to participate. And that's what's really just extraordinarily special about it.
I saw that in a couple of days on May 20th, there's going to be a garden party event at the BK House Rose Garden for the third book, The Missing Maid of Orleans. And that sounds divine. I'm envisioning lots of colorful hats and wigs. Are you excited?
It's going to be very exciting. This is the Beauregard Keys house. It's very old. It was built almost 300 years ago, and they have a full-size rose garden. Cleo's art will be on display, and it'll be a garden party.
Well, we are all super excited about the upcoming musical adventures of Georgie and Gigi in the just-announced Jazz trilogy. And I'm wondering, why jazz?
It's such a natural progression when you're talking about New Orleans. The city is steeped in it. Jazz began there. Without Storyville, you wouldn't have necessarily had the coming together of all the musicians and the time for them to perform and work on their craft. So it was a natural progression.
I had just finished these 3 books. I finished The Missing Maid, and Cleo said, now let's do one about music. I want music. I'd like to talk about the history of jazz, and I want to emphasize women in jazz because they're actually, we can think of vocalists like Ella Fitzgerald and Billie Holiday, but nobody really knows about the women who played trumpet, who were instrumental in the creation of jazz and in its expansion all over the country. So that's what happened.
From what I understand, there is going to be a new character that we get to meet for the first time in the Jazz trilogy. Teeny, and I have to say I love that name. She's Georgie's older cousin, another one of Marie's grandchildren, and she's another wunderkind and a teenager. So I'm intrigued by this. What can you tell us about her and how she fits into the G&G universe?
I thought it would be fun to bring another young person into it, and somebody that both Georgie and Gigi look to in the big sister or big brother mode, somebody that they admire, and somebody who takes on the best qualities. They are both very cool kids, much cooler than me. But Teeny is really an amalgamation of several people. She's smart, she's very athletic, and she's fun and cool.
I love that we're getting another aspirational yet totally relatable character because it just adds to the positivity of these adventures and how uplifting they are. And I just feel so strongly that that kind of content is so important right now, especially considering everything that kids are being exposed to these days at a younger and younger age. So hats off to you both. Without giving away too much, I know that the final installment of the Jazz trilogy will focus on some of the female greats, past and present, in keeping with the value system of the social contract. I love that. And it just seems like such a natural continuation of what you've been doing the whole time with these stories, always including strong women in the mix, from Cleo and Marie to Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Hillary Clinton, so many more. Cleo, I think this was especially important to you, and I know that you always feature female artists when you're guest DJing at WWOZ. Tell us about that.
It's a nonprofit radio station. I've actually tried to put forward women and how they're basically making the music scene. It's just giving people something to aspire to, and that's really been something that we've enjoyed.
And on that note, I want to conclude with my own wishes to you, Cleo. Truly knowing you, and knowing you as a person, as a fellow artist, it really is a pure delight. Don't ever lose that creative spark inside you, as if you ever could. And please don't ever stop sharing it with the world as if you ever would. The best is truly yet to come. So happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Tavia.
Thank you for joining us for Cleo's Birthday Bonanza. I hope you've all had as much fun as I have. Keep an eye out for information relating to the rollout of the new adventures of Georgie and Gigi in the Jazz Trilogy. Book 1 is coming this summer. I can't wait. Be sure to check out Cleo's Birthday Bonanza art. It's available for download in the show notes. Now, this birthday-themed special presentation of the Social Contract podcast would not be complete without mentioning another special lady, whose 100th heavenly birthday is coming up on June 1st. None other than screen legend and cultural icon Marilyn Monroe was born almost 100 years ago on the first day in June 1926. I cannot think of a better way to honor what would have been Marilyn's 100th birthday than to check out George and Cleo's Audible single Marilyn/Valkyrie, featuring Stephen DeRosa and the amazing Stephanie Stewart, who sounds just like Marilyn. Georgie and Gigi may not be in this one, but it is an absolute hoot that I'm sure our parental and elder listeners will love. There's also an ebook single featuring original art from Cleo that reimagines the iconic movie star as a towering voting rights warrior. I think Marilyn would have enjoyed that, don't you? And for any of you heading across the pond this summer, the National Portrait Gallery in London, in association with the Marilyn Monroe estate, will be housing an exhibition called Marilyn Monroe, A Portrait. This very special exhibition kicks off on June 4th and is scheduled to run through September 6th. Could a London jaunt be in the cards for Georgie and Gigi? You never know. Just remember to visit mytscpodcast.com, georgescorey.com, and, of course, theartistcleo.com to keep up with the latest goings-on. All 3 titles in the Mardi Gras trilogy, the Mardi Gras Mystery, the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans, and the Missing Maid of Orleans, are on sale now in beautiful hardcover editions that are like a junior coffee table book for kiddos, as well as in digital and audio formats. The Social Contract podcast is created by George S. Corey and Cleo, produced by Talkbox Productions and Listen, hosted by Tavia Gilbert, associate producer Tatiana St. Fard, mix and master by Brian Barney, additional dialogue editing by Kathleen Conti, social manager Suzette Burton. On behalf of George, Cleo, Stephen, Maya, and me, Tavia, it has been our pleasure to bring you Cleo's Birthday Bonanza. The Social Contract will return.